I was convinced I was going to fail at digital marketing until one mentor taught me one incredibly simple piece of content strategy. And today, I'm going to show you exactly what that strategy was, why it changed the way I approach clients. But before I show you what that change was, you need to understand the rejection that nearly convinced me that I wasn't cut out for this business. I had just received another no thank you rejection from another magazine I wanted to provide content for. And it was a really bad, in your face, demoralizing rejection. It went something like this: don't ever reach out to us here at XYZ Magazine ever again. Now, at this point, I haven't been hired by any publication provider or publisher or magazine yet. And this latest rejection was like a swift kick to the gut. I know what that feels like after so many years training in martial arts. Not pleasant at all. The frustrating part was that everyone told me my content was good. So why wasn't anyone hiring me? I was doing everything right. Okay, you're leading the reader through the content, persuading them on to the next step. And that's when I eventually learned something about outreach that completely changed the way I looked at getting clients. But first, you have to know what I was facing at that moment. No one was paying attention to any of my outreach. No one was buying. That means I was doing something wrong, but I had no idea what it was. Until I was approached in person by another outdoor content provider at an outdoor business expo that I was attending. It was at this moment that Jim took me under his wings, so to speak. He was at the time a premier bird hunting expert and owner of some very well-known publications. Jim owned a very large publishing business where he wrote, printed, sold 5 different outdoor-related magazines that he not only provided content for, he owned all of them. He was a syndicated columnist with most of the major newspapers and news outlets in Southern California. That means his content was repurposed to all of them. And what Jim taught me about repurposing would eventually allow me to turn that one piece of content into multiple paying opportunities. And here's how that happened. He offered me the chance to work with him where he would teach me everything there is to know about the content publishing business. I was excited. But then he told me it was not going to be free. The cost was at that time pretty steep, and I didn't know how to make it happen, but I managed. I worked overtime at my job, started charging more for the martial arts classes I was teaching, worked on hot rods, did mechanical work on the weekends to make all that extra cash. I did what I had to do no matter what it took. And within just about 4, maybe 5 months of all that extra work, I managed to save the amount needed, which was pretty expensive to say the least. Once I was under his teaching, his mentorship, a whole new world opened up that I had no idea was even there. And this is where things get really interesting. Jim taught me one deceptively simple strategy that took me from struggling to get just one paid account all the way to consistently working with more than 9 paying accounts a month. And it wasn't about writing faster. I was taught that when you write content for a very specific niche or topic, that you need to write with the intention of reusing it. The same content again for someone else, again and again and again. It's like having a great pair of running shoes that are also great for soccer practice. One pair, 2 purposes. But this really took me by surprise. I mean, after all, I'm a published author, right? And to think that I couldn't manage to write a few different pieces of long form content per week? Really? What was he thinking? And I was thinking to myself, you don't know me that well, do you? Well, yes, he did by then. And the overall fact that was presented were life changing. I learned to write with the intent of reselling that same content time after time after time, simply by just changing a few things here and there. This is part of understanding niche mastery and how all of the other top tier writers get so much work done. And this is one of the very first things I learned during my training. But the interesting part, repurposing wasn't the actual strategy that changed everything. This brings me back to that one small piece of content, that one tiny small piece of content strategy that helped me get paid and published more. This extremely easy and simple approach to getting business owners to open my messages and read them was, at the time, I thought was cheating. I mean, after all, I already had the SoCal Fishing website, started to plan out the next adventure, which was Fins and Feathers magazine, and I was still working a full-time job, raising a family. So what was the main driving focus of all of this? I wanted to be self-employed and spend more time at home, more time outdoors, more time with martial arts training. And there was also that race car I had to finish building sitting in the garage that I never heard the end of. I had goals, but those goals required something else to happen first. I was taught that outreach wasn't about sending the perfect sales pitch. It was about giving someone a reason to stop what they were doing and open your message. So instead of sending a generic subject line, I was taught to research the person. I was told that for outreach into a potential client, that I needed to have a checklist of everything I can find out about them, their work history, their educational background, where they went to college, anything I could use in that subject line to increase that open rate. I would find out about their college background and use that to my advantage. Let's say this prospect went to University of Texas for business administration, and they played American football in college. Now, this right here gave me the info I was looking for. So my subject line on my outreach email would read something like, "Is Texas going all the way?" This is a for sure open because it refers to that person's college football team. That's when I realized something I had completely misunderstood about persuasion. You find something of special interest or that's something unique only to them. And this helps lead them into and through the message based on their interest by persuading them to read further. This is what I thought was cheating, when in reality, this is how you get the open rates to your messages. That's why we cover tactics like this and more inside the professional outreach program. This is also how we came up with getting deep inside the reader's brain. And I have an old bird hunter to thank for teaching me all of this. Professional outreach is not only simply being clever with your messages, although that does help. This skill set requires more than what we just explained. That's because there's so much more going on in everybody's day-to-day life. Okay? We need to have them stop mid-chaos of what's happening to read what we wrote. And that's the hardest part of any outreach. But there's one distinction about email that most new copywriters completely miss. An email sent to an existing list and an email sent to a cold prospect may have a subject line, a good content, and the CTA, but they're playing two completely different games, and we have to be able to distinguish that. They're two totally different concepts, each with their own agenda. Both sell something, both have a CTA or an offer. However, both are not written the same way. And inside professional outreach program, we go over in detail of why this is so important and how it's done. Now, let's get back to what else I learned from my mentor. He helped me reach and overcome these small but ever increasing success points. One building upon the other, accomplishing this, handling that obstacle, moving on to the other one. I learned how to repurpose my content, to get deep inside the reader's brain, how to conduct research to find this information, the art of staying employed and getting paid every month. He taught me about contracts, North American first serial rights, and how to repurpose legally, and so much more. My time spent learning was not simply do this, do that. No. My time was spent teaching why to do this or that. Once you understand the why, everything else becomes second nature. Working with such a well-respected and successful mentor was something I wasn't looking for. I wasn't. And the cost, it scared me away at first, I'm not going to lie. Until I realized something. And once I look back upon it, it makes me laugh at the reason why. You see, I had already trained with some of the best traditional martial arts instructors at the time, paying big money just to learn from some of the greatest. From Okinawa, Japan, to China, to here in the U.S., I studied for decades to become that one person. So why was this any different? I mean, I wanted and needed to learn. Why not pay for and succeed with my education? With a method that makes sense to me, okay? That method was one-on-one. The same way I'd been learning martial arts. I just needed to change the focus point. Everything my mentor taught me eventually became the foundation for the system I now teach inside the Professional Outreach and Strategic Follow-Ups program. This method has never been easier to access than it is now. The link is in the description box below. Get hours of teaching, one-on-one interaction, sales call practice with myself and other copy shop team members. You get daily, weekly, monthly levels of achievement to go through. Building your own personal outreach system based on your niche. No more hand-holding. This is real. So you better be ready to mix it up and score some hits. Make yourself known. The Professional Outreach and Strategic Follow-Ups program is by far the closest you will ever get to a complete mentorship program without that mentorship price tag. The thing that scared me at first. Follow this video next for more information. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.